What's going on, guys? Victor here. I'm going to show you how to fillet up this beautiful white sea bass cod here in SoCal using an 8-inch Dexter flexible fillet. Let's jump right into it. So we actually gutted this fish already. That way it stays nice and fresh for us. We did leave it on ice overnight. The very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come right here by this pelvic fin. I'm going to cut, and I'm going to cut around this pec fin as well. I'm going to go into the head meat, the soft part right here, until my knife kind of stops me. Now there's two ways to do this. I like to go over the rib cage. Some people like to go through it and then take it out. Both ways work. I'm going to show you the way I like to do it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tip of my knife and just very superficially run all the way down the length of this white sea bass until I get to the tail. So we've outlined our fish. Now I'm going to take my knife and rest it on this white sea bass's spine, okay? Making sure I'm on the hard part of the spine. And I'm just gonna make passes until I get to the head and I'm freeing up that meat. And I'm gonna continue to do this until I get to the backbone, or the bone that runs right here along the center of the fish. And you can hear my knife hitting that backbone as well. Real important, this fish has been nicely iced for about 24 hours, so it's super firm. Filleting fish that have been iced make your life a lot easier. Okay, so now what we've done is we've freed up all top of this sea bass. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to lift right here with my left hand, and right here there's going to be a set of pin bones. You're going to need to slightly angle your knife up, and you kind of hear, it's like you're going to the chiropractor, you break through them. Once I'm through them, now I can continue my fillet and go over the rib cage. So this is where there's two ways to do this. Some people break through these bones and it ends up in their final product. I prefer to go over it, but both ways work. Okay, we go over that. Now I'm gonna take my tip of my knife, angle it down right here when I get to this backbone, so I don't lose any meat on the other side of our fillet. Okay, once again, tip of my knife down, and I'm resting my knife on the sea bass's spine. Continue. And just like that. All right. Now you guys see, we left hardly anything on here, and you can really visualize it now. Sea bass have a really big, pronounced backbone that you really got to make sure you point the tip of your knife down, otherwise you're going to miss the meat directly on the other side. Okay, so what a lot of other people like to do is they'll trace it from both sides and then they'll run their knife down here, and you end up with this rib cage, which you're going to end up cutting out anyway. So there's not really any meat here. This is kind of its own cut, where you could throw this on the grill or barbecue and you can eat the meat in between the bones, but it's definitely not part of your standard fillet. So I'm going to set this over here. Once again, right here by the pelvic fin, and go around the pec fin. Follow that soft part of the head meat. I'm gonna have my cameraman turn around real quick. I'm gonna take the tip of my knife, and once again, just outline this sea bass all the way to the tail. And you notice when I go and I do my initial outline, I'm not so much perpendicular to the fish with my knife. I find it easier if you're at a 45-degree angle. You're really kind of trying to push the knife through the scales. Rather than seesawing back and forth, you get a much nicer cut to try to go at a 45-degree angle. Okay, now I go on the other side. And I'm also, these are pretty scaly fish, so I'm constantly knocking the scales off as I go. Now I'm going to rest my knife on the spine once again, and just slowly separate. It's not a race. You fillet at your own pace. Just make sure you do a good job. You spend all this time and money catching the fish, and make sure you get maximum yield so you can enjoy it with your friends and family. Just like with any fish, we always go till we get to the backbone. Okay, once we get through the backbone, once again, we got to break through these pin bones right here. You can kind of hear when you break through them. We're over the rib cage now. Right here's the rib cage. Broke through the pin bones. Now, once again, tip of your knife and just separate this meat right here by the backbone. And then go down on the other side of the backbone. Over this rib cage. Make that final tail cut, and voila, look at this. Gorgeous other side of your white sea bass. All right, now check this out. That's what it should look like right there. You know, you should see that light shining through. You know you didn't leave much on the fillet. And now if you wanted to, you can still harvest the collar. This fish has a lot of head meat, and you can also take this meat right here by the ribs. Kind of tedious, but you're gonna have to eat around the bones. For this fillet demo, I'm not gonna show you guys how to do that because this is just strictly fillets. Now the last thing we got left to do is remove the skin, or skin this fish out. So what I'm gonna do is, major key, here's a huge tip. Whenever you skin a fish, always line your knife up to the edge of the fillet table. That way your blade stays flush with the skin. If I'm out here, look at what I can't get my knife blade flush because my handle's in the way. When I'm here, my handle and blade is flush with the table. Take your left hand and trail right behind the blade, and it makes it way easier because you can really feel to see what your knife is doing, making sure you're not going through the skin. Now here's another tip. When you get to this part of the sea bass, when you're skinning it, I slightly tilt the angle of my knife up, because what can tend to happen is you can miss the skin right here by the head. So I lifted it up. Now watch this. Bam. Skinless piece of your white sea bass. Beautiful stuff right there. One last step we got to do. I'm actually going to leave my fish on my skin. This way I don't get any of the scales or anything on it. Right here is the bloodline and the line where the backbone runs. Right here towards the head half, you're going to have a line of pin bones. Pin bones are what connect the fillet of the fish to the rib cage. We're going to go about halfway. That's where your pin bones stop. But if you want to remove your entire bloodline of the fish, I know I'm going to be freezing this fish. I'm going to remove the entire bloodline. So I'm going on one side of my sea bass. Okay, I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. If eaten fresh, you can totally leave the bloodline on, but when freezing fish, I highly recommend you remove it because you're going to get a much better product for weeks to come. So I'm just going to take this out. Our pin bones are in there, our bloodline is in there. Now check it out. Now you got a completely boneless, skinless piece of sea bass. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like this fillet video, give it a like. If you guys want to see more, comment down below what you want to see next. If you guys are interested in the knife I use, this is an 8-inch Dexter flexible fillet. Great all-around knife for so many different species, both fresh and saltwater. You guys can find it linked below or dexteroutdoors.com. Till the next one.